Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I'm Babu Owino, member of the Budget Committee. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Any other member who wants to introduce himself? Yes. Yes, the incoming governor of Nairobi also.
Okay.
Yes. The Honorable Liam Gogo, introduce yourself.
Thank you. I'm Lilian Gogo. I'm the MP for Rangwe and a member of this committee.
Please, Dr. John Paul.
Thank you, Chairman. John Paul Murigi is my name, MP Gembe South Constituency and a member.
Thank you, Waziri. Please respond, then we will take the second phase of questions.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, allow me to respond. I think the first concern that was raised by Honorable Ruth has actually been addressed by you. We have the Annex number 2 and 3 will supply more copies, but the Chair has the copies. Honorable David Ochieng, EGP, and that will also address further questions on this matter. On the reforms under EGP, we started slow. Of course, with any new system, there are challenges, and there were a number of them, largely out of use of the system. But we continue to train and continue to provide technical support. And I'm happy to see that now almost the entire government is onboarded into EGP. And we have made a decision, even though this particular financial year 2025-26, we gave a number of exemptions on use of EGP, especially on emergency situations and items that needed to be procured fast. But now in the next financial year, we have taken a policy decision that no one will be exempted from use of EGP, because clearly we are seeing a perfect improvement in terms of use of this system. Almost all MDAs are now capable and able to use the system. The training has been well, and almost every MDA, State Department, has enough personnel trained on EGP. So in terms of how much you have saved, I may not have the data now, but I think this is one area. There are a number of areas that I will address more comprehensively on the 11th of next month in my budget speech. So I will make sure that this is one of those things that I'll capture alongside, thank you, alongside some other measures that we have taken, and give a report on what we have been able to achieve. In fact, I've been asked about EGP, I've been asked about Treasury Single Account. We will be able to bring out what these reforms have helped us in terms of realizing value for money. On KRA value for money, yes, we have actually invested in KRA. Although we were slow in disbursing the amount that was allocated to Kenya Revenue Authority, the 17 billion, I don't know whether we have now disbursed. We are on course in disbursing, but the reforms are encouraging in terms of automating the systems. And by the way, the reforms are wide-ranging. It's not just the systems. There are a number of reforms, including even motivation to staff. Out of that allocation, about 5 billion was just targeting giving support to staff in terms of empowerment, in terms of motivation, and supporting health cover and all that, so that we have a motivated staff at KRA. You don't expect someone who probably has a headache about treatment of a child or a wife and to collect revenue and remit. So these are things that are taking place. There is also personnel changes, I'm sure you are aware, and so we were actually promised that we would start seeing the results of this after March, which is the month of April, although the performance of April improved a bit. But due to this global disruption, again, you are not able to determine whether it has been impacted on the global shocks or lack of these reforms realizing their intended objective. And that's about value for money audits. I think it was tied to KRA. Yeah. And then on councils enhancing discipline, we have proposed as National Treasury, an integrated system, county integrated own source revenue integrated system. But this has faced a bit of challenge because a Council of Governors were resisting some of the provisions and initially resisting the whole concept. But after further engagement and negotiation, we are fine-tuning the law so that we have an integrated way of collecting revenue at the counties. It doesn't make sense that we have 47 counties and each is operating their own system, some manual, some digitized. We have recommended, because that is a mandate that is given to National Treasury, to prescribe systems that are used by government at both levels. So we have been very candid to them that this is not something that you can claim independence. You have to remember that that responsibility, the Constitution has placed it on the National Treasury. So we are reaching somewhere. Maybe what we now need to do is to fast track it. But it is being coordinated at IBEC through the Office of the Deputy President. Auditor General competing for money with other MDS and agencies, that could be correct because we have sector hearings. But again, the Auditor General's office is placed under a category where they are almost similar. Chair, I am a bit reluctant in allowing for more of making our budget rigid, because then there would be no need for a budget committee to National Treasury. Because what we see is a very rigid budget. I will tell you, we have a budget with very limited flexibility. I hear people talk a lot about cut here, cut there. There is very little to cut. I will give you just in summary. Chair, today we are projecting to collect 3.63 trillion. Out of that, 1.5 goes to CFS. Interest payment alone is to 1.2, over 1.2 trillion. And then you have the pensions, and you have contribution to pensions, and you have constitutional office holders. Collectively, that's 1.5 trillion. Then about $1 trillion goes into paying salaries. That is for our disciplined forces and other public servants. 702 goes to other public officers, and then over 200, actually 290 something goes, over 996 billion is salaries to national government public officers. So if you remove 1 trillion and 1.5 trillion, you remain with about 1.1 trillion. And again, you have the counties, minimum now 420. I don't know how much it will be by the time we are done with the negotiation. I just wish and hope that it is maintained at 420, especially given the uncertainty we are in. But remove that from the 1.1 trillion, how much is left? Less than 700 billion, 600 something. Now that is where you have money for CDF, which is 61 billion. You have money for GAF, which is about 4 billion. Then you go to primary healthcare, is 19 billion, 19.1. Emergency chronic and critical illness, 4 billion. Then you go to education, capitation. I've been asked about capitation. We are providing 54 billion for free day secondary education, 31 billion to JSS, another 7 billion to the primary education. You have higher education loans for over 56 billion, and you have the cash transfers to the elderly, 25 billion. I can go on and on. What I am saying is, do we have really a budget even to wiggle around? Nothing. We have a very inflexible budget. So I'm reluctant in, again, going ahead to tie our budget to some percentages. I hear almost everyone wants to tie budget to percentages. And then if that is the case, you just have Kenya Revenue Authority and maybe employ some clerks and put the National Treasury to be adding the figures, because it's already distributed. You don't even need economic planning department. It's a waste of time. You don't need even budget committee, by the way. I think you just need maybe parliamentary budget office. You also don't need senior staff. Just have some clerks there to put the figures together for parliament to say aye, and then just as a ritual. And then that's the end of it. So what I'm advising against is for us to fall to the temptation of trying to allow everyone else to have a pie already put in law of the budget. We have to be a country that balances all things and plans. On questions by my friend Makani Mulu, Contingency fund, even this financial year, we have just 2 billion in the budget. But I agree with you, there may be need. But you see, the contingency fund should, we usually don't use it to address external shocks. We usually use this maybe just to address emergencies which are internal in nature, like places, floods, drought. External shocks may be difficult to deal with under contingency funding. We may just quickly adjust our macros and fiscal framework to deal with external shocks. I agree on the incomplete projects that this is something that we need to talk about. But again, we have to balance it with historical injustices. Most of the ongoing projects, you will find them concentrated on certain specific regions and areas. And that is why you will find that, and that I will tie it to another question that I was asked about why information is not made available for the distribution of the budget in terms of regions and sub-counties. Sometimes it is deliberate because we find sometimes it is deliberate because you find budgetary provisions are skewed, very, very skewed. And that is why at the National Treasury sometimes I have fights with ministries and departments, because when they tell us, when I bring my budget, usiguze, leave it as it is. But I tell them I'm also here to ensure inclusivity and balancing of budget in the whole country. I can't just be seated here and be a conveyor belt for your budgets. I have to also rationalize and look at it. So it sometimes brings some misunderstanding. And many of our colleagues will agree with me, especially those who are coming from marginalized areas, that I've invited them to come and probably we see ways of supporting their region as apart from what MDS do. Because there is a budgetary mindset in this country where budgetary provisions are always thought should be going to some specific areas. And I think that is something that we gradually must kill. All regions, look at what is now happening in Wajir. Who knew that Wajir could host an event like the one we are going to have on Monday? And I saw on one of the newspapers yesterday a pictorial picture of what Wajir is today. Roads within the town and the football pitch, and you just love it, you know. If that could happen for some years in this country, we would make progress. And this idea of people feeling excluded from our national discourse would be a thing of the past, and that is what you need for an inclusive country and economy. I am not saying that we now leave completely those who have probably been benefiting, because again, if you leave them out within no time, they will be where the others are today, and that is not what we want. We want a country that is moving together. On pending bills is because of inadequate exchequer releases. That is actually true. That's one of the reasons or contributing factors to pending bills. But if you notice from 2024, 25, now 25, 26, we have been trying very much to make sure that we release the exchequer in good time. And it is not just at the national government level. In fact, if you look at the absorption of our development budget, road sector and the rest, we have really done very well in terms of releasing money, even the money for carer, including even public participation roads. We have released the money, development budget of roads. Most of the roads that were in the 25-26 budget have been procured as we speak, unless maybe challenges of procurement. But we have tried to release the money so that they are procured in good time. They are started before the end of the financial year so that the money is absorbed. Come to even counties. We have only the month of May and June to disburse. We have been very up to date. Even CDF members will agree with me that we have disbursed. Actually, we took a policy decision at the Treasury, a deliberate decision that every month we divide. Actually, the first 2 months passed, then the 10 months we divided the outstanding amount. We found it was 5.3 billion, and we said every month we'll be disbursing 5.3 billion to CDF. And I'm happy to say that we've done that, I think, up to the month of May. We have only the month of June left. And before the month of June, we will disburse that. And you can see now, Parliament has no reason to call me to answer to CDF. I am very relaxed where I am. And in the counties, you are not seeing governors calling for press conferences to demand for their money. And that is why sometimes I say, those who are saying, we are not doing much, and we are not doing well, this government has collapsed. A failed government cannot be disbursing counties, funds to counties in good time and regularly. A failed government cannot be disbursing money to CDF in record time. A failed government has already disbursed the entire GAF, the 4 billion, in good time. A failed government cannot be the one paying salaries by the 5th day of the following month. A failed government cannot be a one that releases capitation even before schools are open. I know there is the question of how much, but the entire budget is being released and in good time. We are releasing money before schools open. We are releasing money to development projects, including roads, in good time. So how is this government failed? This government could only have failed in the minds of people who don't accept it.
Waziri, on that point,
yes,
this committee is aligned. This committee is in support of Babu's government. We just have two of my members who are going to contest for gubernatorial seats, who are a bit reluctant to support the government because they need to win their seats when they're in opposition. Otherwise, the point you have raised is very good.
Chairman,
I'm just supporting your point that this committee is supporting.
And both of them are my good friends, and I wish them good luck. And I can see one of them who is my very good, actually my student and my son. Panicked when I was making some movements in Nairobi. I am not going to run for Governor Nairobi. I know it would have been very difficult for my student to win if I was running, but I'm going to spare you. I wish you well. So I was just saying, actually I was speaking to Kenyans. You know, there has been this talk out there like nothing is happening. But I just look at today and look at 2022, look at 2021, Chairman. We are meeting our financial obligations like we have all because of proper planning. So that is what I wanted to mention. On approved BPS, if you look at the figures on BPS, and we provided that if you look at page 8, the variance is not so much. In fact, what we are required to do is if the variation in as a global figure is above 10%, then we need to really give. But the variation is less than about 0.6%. And we have really tried to live within or near. It cannot be exact because again, from February, end of June, a lot of things have changed. And we have a few figures have changed. But you can see the figures are very close to what the House approved. On audit reports, yes, we get them and we prepare Treasury memorandum. And the recommendations actually we give to the sector groups to make sure that they are aligned when they are dividing the budget or the envelope. It's aligned to the recommendations of the auditor's report.
Mr. Chairman, if you allow me,
yes,
on the issue of the contingency fund,
yes.
What I was saying is, as a result of external shocks, you are likely to have a lot of domestic emergencies. So I was saying we need to factor in more resources so that those domestic emergencies can be addressed. And that was the discussion. I'm one of the few people who know that you can't use contingency to sort out external shocks. So that was the thinking.
Maybe
you need to factor in that.
But maybe the other issue that maybe may come up on contingency fund is maybe you can share with us the utilization for the past allocations. I'm of the view that maybe it has not been utilized. Maybe the funds are
actually that is what I wanted to say, Chair. We already have 7.5 billion in the fund. You know, the fund would just be in addition to the 7.5. But besides that, in terms of dealing with the external shocks, we have already an agreement with the World Bank, and we have already applied for more funding from World Bank. How much is it? 500? About 580 million US dollars to support the shocks that we are likely to face. So we are already very much alert and aware of how to deal with the external shocks.
But Wazir, actually the point you have said was raised. We discussed it and it was a very controversial issue because you know, you are not using contingency fund, which is very well clear, especially in terms of accountability procedures, and there is a lot of 223. That's something really we need to discuss.
Mr. Chairman, you know that contingency fund is not so much, and we have so much coming under 223. And even if you spend on contingency fund, the law requires that you regularize it under supplementary budget and take it back. In fact, it's like money you borrow. It's like a loan. You are not supposed to spend it and it goes. So that is one. And Honorable Makali, since you passed supplementary one, up to now I have not approved even a single 223. So that just would tell you how much we have been resisting the use of Article 223. Up to today, the 28th of May, I have not approved any single 223.
Waziri, you know, that issue, we really discussed it in the committee. And, you know, Dr. Makali Mulo sits at the apex of the United Police Making Organ of the United Opposition. So I had advised him that he should not try to influence policy of government from outside until his party leader becomes the president. Then we can be able to influence those policies. So we agree that he would not be pushing for such things within this committee. But you can proceed.
Thank you. Now, I don't know what was asked about the Departmental Committee on Trade. What is it that they said?
They are in line with the need to complete ongoing projects before starting new ones. So they are recommending that the allocations to kites be used for, equipping the already established kites, so that for this financial year we do not start new kites.
Yeah, but my advice would be to the departmental committees. They're the ones oversighting the MDS and the state departments. They should agree and align with because you see, I can't also be sitting at the National Treasury and start thinking for the state departments because they would be fighting with me. Who has told you we want this here? So they should be very firm in their report to the various departments that they are oversighting and insist that the money is utilized properly. On Honorable Chikati's questions, the number of beneficiaries, people benefiting from SHA usage, I may not have the figure here with me. I think that is something that the SHA board can provide. But what I know is many people are benefiting from SHA. What we probably need to do is to allocate more resources, which I will explain, on primary healthcare, because I think that is where the challenge is. The primary healthcare is supposed to be exclusively funded by the government. And so the requirement is about 30 billion. But we have consistently we are increasing that budget. We start before the end of this financial year, we provided only 13. By the time we did the supplementary one, it's now 19.1. And that is what we have provided again in 2026-27. But emergency, chronic, and critical illnesses is doing very well, with an allocation of 4 billion. If you get those who have been going through these challenges, they will tell you that if there is anything that support under SHA, is the support for chronic, critical, and emergency illnesses. And so that is an area that we are still going to support 100%. In terms of, I was also asked how many people are actively contributing out of the over 20,000, 27 million. We have about 5 million contributors, 4 from the payroll and about 4 million from the payroll of formal, and then about 900,000 to 1 million who are under informal sector. A number of people are still not contributing, but I think that is the work now of SHA and the ministry to make sure that those who are able to contribute so that we can only support the indigents. We shouldn't be supporting everyone, especially under the insurance scheme. And that is because again, it may not be sustainable, and then we get back to where NHIF was. But my plea is we need to support SHA and just improve it. Let us not look back, thinking of like Lot's wife, looking back to what we had already come from. NHIF was not working. Let us make SHA working. The government will do its part to support primary health care, critical, chronic, and emergency illnesses. But now something needs to be done on the shift side so that this fund is fully sustainable. On fuel situation, maybe we should have done the communication better, or we should have been more forthright and ahead in terms of communication. But it is not that the people who are actually talking a lot about fuel and trying to make the situation worse are not people who don't understand. They are people who are playing politics with this crisis. Everyone knows that there is a crisis globally. We watch CNN, we watch Al Jazeera, we watch BBC. We know that at least in Kenya, we are still guaranteed of supply of fuel. There are countries with challenges. Prices have increased everywhere, whether it is industrial countries, even countries who are net exporters of fuel, like the US. The prices have gone up almost 80% high. There are so many countries in the world with which were okay, but are now not very fine. Prices have gone up. The government has intervened. We have intervened in terms of VAT with the help of the National Assembly. We have intervened with the fuel subsidy. Yesterday I saw one of our friends, a member of parliament, telling us to cut. And I'm happy you asked him, where do we cut? And he said, we cut money from foreign travel.
And CDF.
And CDF. So how much from CDF? I wish you asked him.
2 billion.
And 2 billion. So then if we remove the entire budget for foreign travel, no one leaves this country for 1 year. How much will we be saving? It is 8.5 billion. So I don't know whether that 10 billion can subsidize fuel for how many months. And you know, you talk so loudly like you think you want people to believe you are the one who can run the economy. And really you don't even talk with figures. And by the way, Chairman, I'm not with any attitude about Parliament. That amount of 8 billion, 8.5, Parliament consumes 3.3. So, Chairman, the executive is only consuming 4.9 billion. And that 4.9, out of that 4.9, foreign affairs consumes 2.5 billion. Foreign affairs without traveling. So what foreign affairs is that? And then you have IEBC, Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, at 540 million. Then you have National Treasury for full disclosure, 171. We are one of the few high spenders, 171 million. But I have to go with my team to the spring. By the way, I'm one of the ministers who don't travel. But I have to go to the spring meeting, World Bank, IMF every year, twice. So you want to keep me here, how do I engage? And I have to go to ADB and get you some money. So you see, when you see people coming here, Chairman, and the honorable members, and they make wild statements how you can save money from foreign travel. You know, if I didn't mention this figure, Kenyans would think that Kenya is a traveling nation. When we have a government that spends so much money on foreign travel. I deliberately carried these statistics so that Kenyans can understand that we are not spending so much on foreign travel. It's a myth. It's just a myth. We are not spending so much. 8.5 billion for the whole government, including judiciary, National Assembly, Senate, everybody, including executive, all the ministries, 8.5 billion. So, in terms of fuel, I think the government has done...
John Paul has a point of order.
Waziri, I would like also you to maybe expound to us, if we scrap off 8%, as they are saying, what would be the effect?
8% of VAT.
8% of the VAT
on petroleum.
On the petroleum we exempt. What will be the impact?
First of all, the 8% that we...
On the same, I just had something.
Waziri, can you also help us understand, because the former chair emeritus said that we stop using a lot of jargon that our fuel comes from Strait of Hormuz and our fuel comes from Saudi Arabia. Can you, because maybe probably from where you sit, you can be able to know where does our fuel come from, because they say
Whatever is happening in Iran does not affect G to G as far as Kenyan government is concerned. And he said that our fuel doesn't pass. He said that in the floor of the house that doesn't pass through the Strait of Hormuz. Can you maybe probably help us to understand?
Aziri, you can respond on those ones, though those are not part of the questions for this meeting, but because the members are eager to understand, I'll allow you to just mention a bit about.
I think they're good questions. Now, on the issue of reducing VAT to zero from where it is today of 8% for 3 months, I think the National Assembly passed the 3 months. First, let us ask ourselves, what is the impact of reducing it from 16 to 8%? The impact is 12 billion per month lost revenue. So the 2 months is 24 billion. If you do 3 months, it's about 36 billion. Now, if you do, so we are losing 12 billion per month. If you do another 8%, another 12 billion. So it will be 24 billion per month. We are looking at about over 200 billion in a year lost revenue, something like that. Now, I don't know where we are going to cut because again, we must look at the budget in its totality. I've just reported here, Chair, that we have funded almost all sectors. We are in the month of May. So if you cause any deficit in our budget, I will either go for people's salaries, because there's nothing to cut. I've released money largely for development. The only thing I've not paid is salary for May and June. So do you want me to cut people's salary and fund this? And you see, when you are also subsidizing, you must look at it in the economic in totality. There is tomorrow. If we use the entire fuel subsidy in 1 month, what happened the following month? Yeah? If you subsidize 100%, what then happens the following month? No one will remember that you subsidized the previous month. If the following month jumps, the entire increase is absorbed by the economy. It would not be good. So that is why we have been very careful. In terms of where our fuel comes from, we have 3 oil marketing companies. There is Saudi Aramco. There is what we call ADNOC, Abu Dhabi National Oil Company. Then we have ENOC, Emirates National Oil Company. Now, Emirates National Oil Company has been sourcing for oil from UAE and their surrounding, and also ADNOC, Saudi Aramco from Saudi Arabia. Now, I think that to me answers it. We don't have to go to the geography of that region to understand what's happening. But even assuming it is the case, are we not aware that even in Saudi Arabia there is disruption? That some refineries have been hit by Iran, that in UAE, that refineries have been hit. In fact, it will take months. I said even after the war, there will be a period of recovery. Let's say 4 months, for these refineries to be fixed. And the fuel prices across the globe have gone up. Even if you source for fuel from wherever, India or wherever, the only advantage we have today, Chairman, is that we have a contract with these oil marketing companies. And that is why I tell people, anyone who is telling us to discontinue G2G now is actually a murderer. He wants to kill this economy completely. It's like a suicide bomber. Because this is not the time to discontinue a contract you already have. In fact, these companies would be very glad to terminate the contract now, because they are not making much money out of this arrangement. So this is not the time to say let us liberalize, let anyone who wants. What if no one comes to supply us with fuel? You will see dry pumps, and that's not what we want. So to me, I treat some of these comments by our friend. You are the people who spoiled him and made him emeritus. He's a former chairman. So the former chairman, I think I take his comments as political. I don't want so much. On SHA, enhancing the budget to 20 billion from 19.1, yeah. But again, actually the requirement is about 30 billion, I agree. But because of competing needs, you have education to fund, you have other areas to fund, you have security to fund. So we have to balance off this and just have some adequate financing. Also there's some fertilizer, not enough because we have constrained fiscal space. Intern teachers, Honorable Naisula, yes, it is true. We are actually out of them, we are confirming 20,000 intern teachers in this coming financial year, and we will recruit about 24,000 intern teachers. Subsidies mostly on crops and livestock, and not livestock. Yeah, sometimes I agree that we pay a lot of attention on crops and we forget about livestock and others. But I can see we have some intervention on livestock, not enough on artificial insemination and others, and also blue economy. We have some intervention on the blue economy. But I've taken your comment positively. We probably need to look at that much more. On pending bills, we have the committee has completed its work. 235 billion of pending bills have been approved for payment. About 80 billion have already been paid. 155 billion yet to be paid. The 80 billion under the road sector. The 155 billion, we are preparing a cabinet memorandum to take to the cabinet to approve it, and then once approved, then we will see if we can put it below the line and have a strategy on settling the pending bill.